comments. How you been feeling? Close the opening.
I got you. Hello. There.
There.
Man, that was taking forever, dude. I don't know what the hell was going on there. How you doing, boss? You look great today.
Thank you, man. It might have been the Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi is like one bar in right now. I don't know.
No, you're good, man. You're good. I was looking at. I was trying to join. Yeah, it was a pain in my butt. Yeah, for sure. But you were talking about taking a nice nap, brother. That's exactly what I was doing right before this too. I was taking a
Word.
night. Oh yeah. We on the same wavelength. Definitely on the same wavelength. I was taking a nice nap too. But yeah, how you been, my man? How you been?
Everything's blessed, man. Everything.
Absolutely. Oh, I see
Um,
Blanca. I see Blanca in the chat. What's up, Blanca? How you doing? Yeah, I see Blanca. Yeah, yeah. But anyway, yeah, everything's blessed, bro. Everything's been doing phenomenal right now, man. We've been working on a multitude of things, a multitude of things. We got, I mean, the last couple of weeks, last 3 weeks, in and of itself, starting from the Soul Harmony Festival, which we both attended. So far we've sold over 30 books, I think, just in this last like 3 weeks. Yeah, man, it's been fire. We've been getting big online sales. And what's great is that we actually now there's a lot of hush hush stuff I can't talk about. I actually have to sign some NDAs, but we potentially, I'm not making any promises. Potentially, we might be working with some big profile people very soon. So it's nothing but love and appreciation and everything. I'm just gonna move this a little bit here. Nothing but love and appreciation, though. Absolutely, gratitude's at the top of the list. It's at the very peak of it. But how have you been, my friend? How have you been?
Everything's good, man. Can't complain, bro. Today's been an interesting vibe, man. But let's go ahead and start it off like this, bro. Always try to start this off with gratitude.
Mm.
So no matter what happened 50 minutes ago, yesterday, the last hour, 2 minutes ago, before you jumped on this live, everything like that. You feel me? We want to start the day off, and we want to start the live off with gratitude. So, everybody who's watching this, drop something in the comment section about what you're grateful for, or what holds your gratitude today. I'll go ahead and start off the guest first, man. What are you and the team grateful for today?
Oh, brother, great question. So, I mean, honestly, I'm grateful for the all, man. I'm grateful for everything. I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful for nature. I'm grateful for the water and the food that we put in our bodies. I'm grateful for the air we get to breathe. I think most of all, though, if I'm being real, I'm grateful for love, man. Love is the thing that keeps spinning this world and making it go around. Unfortunately, there's not enough of it in the world. A lot of people have different perceptions of love, and you know what? Everybody's got their own stage of love. Some people are at a different stage, and but most importantly, it is very important to love yourself and that internal love, connecting to, well, a lot of people have different words for it: connecting to source, connecting to God, connecting to the universe, connecting to whatever you want to put a label on. But really, at the end of the day, it's connecting to that internal that internal need to be loved and give love to other people. I mean, gratitude is one of those things where it's like it's a sacrifice in and of itself, because what you're doing is you're sacrificing your time and your thoughts and your energy to give back to the universe, and then the universe gives that back to you, and it just builds upon itself. It builds upon itself. You have people who are selfish, and they don't necessarily have that same level of love. And I think that's a big thing, especially what we preach is loving yourself, because and it's not just like loving yourself too, in the sense of ego. You know what I'm saying? It's not loving yourself in a sense of ego. It's loving yourself in a sense of loving everything, and that has to start from within and expand outward. Look, everybody wants to find things in the exterior world where they can kind of focus and harness like different things. A lot of people are greedy, a lot of people want money, a lot of people want sex, anything, doesn't matter. What it really comes down to is having enough, being enough for yourself, and finding that peace within. A lot of people don't have that, man. So more importantly than anything, I would say I'm very grateful for love, and I'm grateful for life.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really good, man. That's really good. Grateful for a humble home. Amen to that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big thing, especially after the hurricanes and stuff that just happened, man. And it's, you know, shoot, we're in hurricane season, man. So it's not even done,
I know.
right? It's crazy. Season set aside, well, not set aside, but like it's a whole season in which people go through pretty much hell. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
that's a whole nother topic, man. But like, yeah, definitely, definitely second that notion with you, brother, man. Like, love is a big thing, man, and I don't think we really truly comprehend the understanding of what love actually is, man. Love is, I don't think love is a word or an action, man. I think it's so much of a frequency that you have to be on, right? And I think the way the world is, the way that the world is, and the way that so many ancient texts talk about um, how things are when end times come, right? And how a new world is supposed to be here and all of these things. And we talk so much about in politics about the new world order and things like that, man. And it makes you wonder if that's a physical thing or if that's a spiritual, energetic thing
Mm,
as to what's turning over, right?
mm.
And I think what the world, should get to is more of a love frequency, right? And the more we're on that love frequency, the more we're able to really connect with one another. We're able to see through the bull, through the cracks, through politics and things that are placed, religion and things, certain things like that that are placed here to kind of divide us as a people. You know what I mean? And that can even be something as simple as like speaking to the person that walks by you on a daily basis. You know what I mean? How many times do we not do that, or just like bypass the people that are in this matrix and not really understanding or really knowing what somebody's going through? So yeah, the love frequency is definitely important. So I'm grateful to be able to be here to provide this to others, to have it for myself a little bit more, and to consistently wake up every day and want to build on that through the business in so many different avenues, bro. So
Absolutely, absolutely, and I love how you say understand because it's not because when we understand, you're putting things below you, but when you
right.
understand, that's something where it resonates with you within. And to expand a little bit on what you were saying about love and New World Order and all this kind of stuff, it's not only physical. I mean, we can see it in reality as it's kind of been taking place. I've spent years and years and years trying to convince people who just had the blinders on that there was a lot more going on than they originally thought. And now as we've been able to make peace with so many different people, bring all these people together, really understand so many, understand too, not just understand, as you said, understand all these different people and their experiences. For me, it's kind of evolving so fast that I think a lot of people are going to be side blinded by all of the horrendous crap that we got coming up in the probably not too distant future. But the fortunate reality is that the people of light who have been following that internal voice, they've been following their own little mechanism of what right and wrong is based on all the experiences that they have taken from the external world, and then they've reflected on it within enough. Those people will have an understanding where they will be able to survive in this future type situation. But it's not just going to be a physical thing. It's a metaphysical, it's a spiritual experience. That's something that a lot of people also don't understand is there's a lot that's going on right now. And really, when it comes at the end of the day, if you study a lot of the ancient texts, you study a lot of the really extreme uh, writings and the teachings, the things that are hidden, the really esoteric. The esoteric writings basically talk about each and every day is an apocalypse because you're making your own personal choices to either benefit yourself or destroy yourself. And the unfortunate truth is that every day people are making the choices to destroy themselves. They're eating that extra bit of sugar. They're eating that extra bit of crap that's not good for them. They're doing wrong things. They're having too much sex. They're having smoking too much weed. They're drinking too much alcohol. Whatever the case might be, a lot of people are not on that wavelength of really having enough to understand themselves and wanting to understand other people. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that, brother. That's actually, really, really intense stuff because, they say a lot of the wise sages, when you study a whole plethora of different writings and teachings, the wise sages basically Yeah, and of course it takes them a very long time to get there, and they put it in riddles. But long story short, the secret is love.
Mhm.
Love is the key in order to ascend beyond whatever this realm of existence is. Love is the thing that babies need once they come out of the womb. Every single person, no matter how old, male or female or what have you, is searching for it. You have a whole slew of problems that are in society today, and all of them could be solved if people just had taken more time to look within themselves and understand themselves, make peace with themselves, and love themselves and those around them. I mean, we wouldn't need churches and temples and such if more people actually had that philosophy in mind, where it is just the reality that if you believe in God, you believe in the universe, you believe in source, what have you. Not only being able to go out and experience the world in the spectrums that we see, and understanding that there is a spectrum that is less correct and a spectrum that is more correct. And that's really where people get screwed up here, because you get a lot of people today that talk and say, "Oh, just let people do what they want. Just let everybody do what they want." And that's hedonism, man. I always ask, if I hear somebody say something like that, that kind of agenda of just do whatever makes you happy, do whatever you want. I always ask, well, what are you doing behind closed doors that you're promoting that kind of thing? Because, there are people who want to do harm to other people. There are people who genuinely want to do harm to children, or they want to do harm to their neighbors, or they want to do harm to their spouses. So I want to ask, what is going on with those people, where you have these group of people now who basically say, yeah, do whatever. But the unfortunate reality is there are spectrums of sorts that exist, because this is a lower plane of existence. Everybody who's really deep in the esotericisms and the wisdoms know that this is a lower plane of existence. We're in a material world. We're in a matrix. We're in a simulation. We're in God's kingdom, whatever you want to call it. We're separated from something that is higher than ourselves. I think everybody feels that internally, but they don't actually think about what that really means. And what that means is that God, or the source or energy or whatever you want to say. I like saying God just because it's easier for people to understand what I'm saying. God exists within everything. Absolutely everything. And there's a spectrum of good and evil, and it's really about overcoming the evil, because the evil exists to teach you lessons, but it's about embracing the good, because that's what it's there for. And so what I'm getting at is, every single day people make the battles and the choices. So really, it's every day is an apocalypse, because you got cells and you got germs and a whole bunch of stuff that's dying within you. You have all these things that are rebirthing within you. You have a whole microcosm within the macrocosm, and you are essentially your own I guess divine being, walking around with this internal mechanism of systems. It's the greatest machine. Science can't explain everything that goes on with it, no matter how far they come, and they never will if they keep embracing this ideology that it's all just comes down to numbers and math, and that's it. It's not just that, it's also emotions. As I mentioned before, why is it that babies need love to survive? Can anybody put a metric on that? Can somebody mathematically prove that with like shapes and numbers and everything? No, you can't. You can't. When a baby comes out of the womb, if it doesn't get enough love, it dies. They've done countless studies on this. Why is it that it needs love? Not food, not water. Obviously it needs those things, but it needs love specifically as a vibrational frequency, as you said. And what is that vibrational frequency that everybody longs for in their life? That is the emotion, which is the gateway to the heavens. That is why everybody longs for it. And a lot of people don't get it right. They get it twisted. They think love is something different. A lot of people want to use different means, like they want to use money or their bodies to gain love in life, but the unfortunate case is that that's only going to prolong their desire for wanting love, because the reality is they're not going within. And I'm not making excuses. I'm not saying people can't do whatever in their lives, because some people are just at harder points. But it is very clear from all of the wise teachings from our sages, even today, if you want to go real deep into the realm of quantum physics, what it really comes down to is your personal choices, your personal decisions, the things that you do when you first wake up in the morning, the things you do right before you go to bed. What kind of meditations and prayers are you doing? How often are you giving gratitude? Because giving is receiving, and it's not vice versa necessarily. Giving is receiving, because we are all one. So a lot of people think that they can just go in and they can take whatever, but unfortunate reality is, man, that's how you end up losing your way a lot of the time. So as I was expressing, love, that is a pinnacle. Everybody confuses it, man. Love and sex are intertwined, and people think, you know, they have very negative and bad opinions about sex these days. And the unfortunate truth is our society is very oversexed. We are completely distracted. Our phones, our television sets, our game systems, even some of the fictional books that people are reading, they're distractions, man. And I mean, this is why you know, pornography is free. It's free for a reason, man.
Right.
It's because it's all distractions, and these people who are at the upper echelons have figured out how to hijack people's brains so well by
Man.
using these distractions that it is really just ultimately destroying our society, and we're really seeing this. So I'll pass it back to you because otherwise I'll ramble forever. But yeah, wonderful conversation topic. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Bro, I'm just building, man. Like when you were speaking earlier, man, like there's a really good book out there that I finished not too long ago called The Warrior of Light, right? And it's by this author named Paulo Coelho, who
Hmm.
was the author of The Alchemist, right? And this book, you know, if I had one book to take with me anywhere around the world, I would always keep this book on me. When I went to Guatemala, I had this book on me, man. Like this book is really something that allows for you to realize that how much, like, not only is this world filled with water, but light is very important, right?
Hmm.
And we are light beings, we are ethereal beings, everything like that, right? And kind of touching on the subject of like with the babies and them needing that frequency of love as to why, you know, it's recommended why babies are to be held close to mom's chest when they first come out of the womb, and for a decent amount of time afterwards, to be able to feel that connection, because that's always what they've heard is mom's heart frequency, their
Hmm.
heart child being, right? So when you pull away from that, they feel disconnect. And it's like the system keys in on that because maybe the nurse and the RNs and the certain doulas and things like that don't know that. You know what I mean? Because they've been programmed by the, you know, the corporations and
It's a
society
big
to
word. Programming. It's a big word.
taught in a certain manner so they can do their job, but they're missing, you know, the in between things that actually allow for us to have connection, right? And children, that's a big thing, you know. um the people out here know how important children are. That's why they do child trafficking. That's why they will try to program you at that age from 1 up until 7 or 8, because your mind is already like in that theta stage, right? It's in that theta frequency, which allows for you to be a sponge pretty much, and whatever you're taught within that time period pretty much catalyzes in your mind for you to be able to embed those things as beliefs, as you know, your point of view of the world, your actions, things like that. So it's very important that's like, to receive love and certain guidance as a youth before you get into those teenage years, man. And a lot of people haven't received that. Like right now, I think there's like this big thing, and it's very ironic because last year the big thing was, what's old buddy who hung himself, that was like the Epstein,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or so to say he didn't hang. You know what I'm saying? Like, quotations, right? He was the big thing, like early in the year, all the way through the summer, and the stories and the things on Netflix and all of these things, and people and the trafficking and the sex slaving and all these things came out. The R. Kelly thing, so many different things, right? And it seems like the last couple of months, the big thing is Dahmer, Jeffrey Dahmer, right?
Yep.
And not to get so much in on both of these guys or anything like that, but it's like the one thing, I don't even invest in it. I don't want to watch anything about it. Like I don't even want to open my spirit up to that type of frequency, man.
Right.
But one thing that I the one thing I see visually and see spiritually through all of that stuff is that these people lacked true love. These people lacked that as a youth. um Somebody from Gambia, Africa is trying to get on the live. Nah, but we appreciate you being in the live, man. Um, we those people, there was definitely a gap in their childhood, man, to where they didn't receive love, and they were probably programmed by evil. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Allowed for them to be able to uh, set their market on this realm and in
Mhm.
this planet we live on, to where it's affected so many people. So I think, just living every day with that love frequency is highly important, man. And
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, man.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the one thing I kind of noticed too, is Matt, is with you and your team, bro, like it seems like there's like an unbreakable bond and love connection there between you guys as brothers, man. And for you all to be able to be in this business together, where you all are authors, you all come together as a collective to be able to provide certain knowledge to the collective,
Mhm.
right? With the book that you all have, man, it's very highly inspirational, right? There you go.
This big old
People
thing.
order this, and you have like the link in your bio for people to order the book.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Link is in the bio for if anybody's interested in ordering the book. It's huge, but I want to say thank you because that's it. That's you're exactly hitting the nail on the head, man. This is we've been friends since we were kids. Some going all the way back to when we were 7, 8 years old. So it's been like 20 plus years for a lot of this group being friends, 15 to 20 years. And I'll tell you, man, it's been a hell of a journey, but we're still kicking it. And we're still fighting the good fight. We're a brotherhood because what we've done at such a young age is we've discovered so many intense and immense esoteric hidden secrets that none of the other societal crap or any of the other things that normally drag people down, they don't really affect us on the scale that it affects other people, because again it goes back to that love frequency, but it also goes back to a lot of the practices that we do, just connecting, not only with other people but with ourselves and with, source, universe, God, again, whatever kind of perspective you want to think of it as. So we all have a very deep connection, and we all do these practices all the time. Every every couple of days we're or at least for me specifically, I do a good bit of yoga. I do a lot of meditation. The whole group really does. And but again, that comes down to having the temperance and the resolve and the willpower to put the phone down, put the game controller down, put anything down. All these distractions that we have, reject the things that society are telling you to do, because they're not even recommending anymore. They're just telling people to do these things, but it's just a big distraction and it's causing misery. It causes people to lose their minds, it causes people to lose their families, their spouses, their girlfriends and boyfriends, their friends. I mean, it's really bad. But at the end of the day, the reason that we've excelled so much is not just because of the wisdoms, but it is mainly because of that love factor, bro. You got it. You hit the nail on the head with that, because that's really what it is. And that's really what we promote and we preach. Actually, there's a lot that goes into it too. It's not just like about the frequency. It's about how so many different esoteric texts prove it. And that's actually something that we cover in our book, like pretty well, actually, I would say, especially towards the end of the book. It's basically just allowing other people to understand the the mechanisms of how this world operates and what is it exactly that you're looking to do. So in the book we talk about basically manifesting the lifestyle that you so choose. What do you want in life? Do you want to get rich? Do you want to do you want to find a love or whatever, or more importantly, do you actually want to connect to that source? Do you want to connect with yourself? Do you want to understand yourself fully? Do you want to become enamored in that body of light? And how do we do that? I mean, that's really the big thing. Is so many people are preachers, but they're not instructors. They don't teach people how to go from 1 to 100. They just tell you, oh yeah, well, here's the first 10 steps, but that's it, and then they kind of drop you and they leave you hanging, and they don't really walk you through it. And we make the point in the book multiple times. You don't have to take any of the advice. advice. You don't have to listen to any of the advice that we give, but it's already been proven time and time again. I mean, we're actually the proof in and of itself. I mean, we're younger than 30 years old, and we're about to be doing some amazing things. I have to do a whole hell of a lot of traveling over these next 2 months to teach. I teach 32nd degree Freemasons. I teach people who of all different age groups, and doctors. I teach doctors, who are much, much older than myself. So um, it's starting to get to a point where we are actually manifesting something beautiful, and a lot of that is in the book on how exactly to do that. Not really trying to plug the book too much. I actually wanted to share more about esoteric wisdoms and secrets and such on this podcast because I thought it'd be a really good thing to do. So that's, I think, one of the things that I'm starting to realize after being in this industry and doing this for so many years now, and actually starting to get out and talk with people now that this book is done. Because I mean, the book took a very long time to write. It took like 10 years to really collect all the data, and then only in the last like 2 to 3 years have we really been putting it to paper. And really, it only got completed like in the last year. But I will say this, there's a lot of wisdoms and secrets that we have put in that book to help people find and resonate with those frequencies. So the book itself is actually filled with a slew of little pearls of wisdom that once you awaken to them, you're basically attached to that frequency almost for life. It actually gets to a point where you start to see these patterns within life. So I'll give you an example. So the ancient wise, so this one's very easy to understand. Most people who are in this community, they understand the concept of the four elements, right? But just to make it even simpler than that, I'll go with science. Everybody knows there's solids, liquids, and gases. But if you go by science, there's a fourth element, and that's called plasma. But if you go and you look even further and you study quantum physics and such, there's actually a fifth element, which they made a movie about in the 90s. The fifth element is known as, it's known as a lot of things, like dark matter or space or whatever. Well, in reality, this is just a reconstruction of the old wisdoms that all of our ancestors knew. So regardless of where you were from, they broke life down basically into these five elements, and this is actually where we get the five-pointed star from. So the five-pointed star, the right side up five-pointed star, is the four elements, which are fire, earth, water, and air. And those are the four lower parts. And the one at the top is ether. Ether is the one that's connected to God or the source or light or anything like that. The four other ones are below that. That's why when you flip it and it becomes like that pentagram, that's why a lot of people say it's like satanic, because the ether is now facing towards the bottom. And they put the four elements, the material world, they put the material world over the godly world. Okay, so everybody knows about these four elements: fire, water, air, and earth. We actually have all five of them in our bodies. So if you look at the skeleton, that one represents fire, because if you burn away the entire body, all that's left are the bones. And then your flesh is the earth, because that's actually your external system. Then your cardiovascular system, that's more like the water. And then you have muscles, which require oxygen. So it's really like skeletal, muscular, cardiovascular, and flesh, right? But then there's that fifth element. And this is the secret etheric fifth element of the body, and that's the neurological system, the system of light, the one that your brain is connected to. And so the brain, which is connected to this neurological system of light, all runs throughout the body. That is the etheric sphere of the body. So if you study Gnosticism, which was actually like that's the Gnostics and the Hermetists were the people who really wrote the Christian and Catholic Bible. So these people were called Gnostics because Christianity didn't exist until like 300 or 400 AD. So who wrote the Bible if we know that it was written around like 100 years after Christ? Well, it was people who were called Gnostics and Hermetists. And the Gnostics used to say that God put an essence of itself within us as after we fell out of the garden. So they have the whole analogy of the Garden of Eden where man fell. But God, taking pity on us, put an aspect of the divine within us, and that divinity is the neurological system. So when people say we're like the apex species on this planet because we're the most intelligent, that's the neurological system. Animals, no other animals except for monkeys and dolphins have anything close to our neurological structure. And when you study monkeys and dolphins, they have a very close and similar neurological structure. So the real secret is the neurology. It's the light way, right? And then there's also like a whole wide variety of studies that kind of go into that, such as neuroimmunology. So it's neuroimmunology is the study of how the neurological system bleeds into the immune system. So if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling angry, that is actually going to weigh down on your immune system compared to if you're feeling happy, elevated, uplifted, higher vibrations. And if you feel the higher vibrations, then and you're living in tandem with those, then you can actually avoid getting sick most of the time. Of course, a lot of this information was repressed, especially in the last couple of years, for reasons that we don't need to get into. But as you can tell, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in that. So let me reveal. Now that we've covered the elements, let me reveal a big secret. The ancient wise sages used to say there is a pattern that exists within the universe. And the pattern is that there is a characteristic of fire, earth, water, fire, air, water, and earth. So from top to bottom, the structure is fire, from the four elements perspective, is at the top. Next after that is air, next after that is water, and next after that is earth, okay? And there are many reasons why they did this. They said that earth and water was more feminine. They said that fire and air was more masculine. There's a whole bunch of things that go beyond that, but I want to just showcase one pattern to prove that life actually was, it essentially has a created structure. So life isn't just spontaneous with a whole bunch of, atoms and all that. Like science likes to paint it like it was just some big accident. But if you study the patterns that I will awaken to you in the audience now, it's actually quite extensive and deep. So in the facial structure, the nose is in the middle, and the nose separates the eyes from the mouth. Your eyes take in light, which is based on the fire element. The nose takes in air, which is based on the air element, and the mouth takes in solids and liquids, which is water and earth. Now, your brain is the fire element. Below your brain is the lungs, and then below the lungs is your stomach. So the fire of your brain is separated away from the stomach, which processes solids and liquids, by the air in your lungs. If you look at the Earth, the planet Earth is earth and water, and above that is atmosphere, which is air, and above that are the fires of space, the sun specifically. So the fires of heaven are separated from the earth and the waters by the air and within the atmosphere. If you look at a tree, the leaves on the tree take in light. They photosynthesize the light specifically. The trunk of the tree is what gives off carbon dioxide and gives off oxygen, sucks in carbon dioxide. And the roots at the bottom is what takes in the earth and the water. And all of the things of life that have DNA within them will share this pattern, because when you study DNA, carbon, nitrogen, and hydrogen bonds. The hydrogen bond is in the center, and carbon, which is more the earth-water metric, and then nitrogen, which is the fire, the hydrogen bond is in the middle. So even all the way down to the last scrap of DNA, it will showcase that there is a form of a pattern that we can see. And now the reason this is important is because a lot of people who are in the agnostic or atheistic spheres of life, which I don't blame anybody for believing anything, because really at the end of the day, it just means, especially for people who are less spiritual, that they haven't had enough of an awakening yet. They're experiencing too much of the lower worlds. They want to go out, they want to party, they want to go to the club, they want to get drunk all the time, they want to have their one night stands. There's a lot that goes into it, but this pattern is crucial to understanding not only our ways of life, but also basically anything that's living. However, the point I want to get at is a lot of people who are not really tapped in. It's mainly because they're not respecting these types of patterns. They're not seeing these types of patterns. They're not reflecting on these types of patterns. So anything that we have in existence that has life, it follows this set of patterns, and that's, again, if it houses DNA. But there's plenty of other secrets. That one's actually like an easier one to understand. But the reason it's important is because some people need physical evidence to see these things. Some people are so bogged down. We could get into the science of the pineal gland, the science of the brain, the science of consciousness. They're so bogged down by the food that they eat, the water that they drink, the alcohol that they consume, the drugs that they consume, the copious amounts of sex, anything that's a distraction from you. You're distracting yourself. Why can't you just sit alone with your thoughts? A lot of people can't do that. A lot of people can't sit alone with their thoughts. They can't take 10 minutes, 20 minutes out of a day. They have to constantly find something to distract themselves with. And because of this, they're really furthering themselves away from the light, and they're bringing themselves more towards this matrix. Well, that's fine. The wise sages used to say, look, you have a soul. It's within the body. It's the energy within the body. That's what the soul is. And the soul doesn't necessarily reside in one place. The soul is a field, or like a lot of people call a biofield or a torus field, anything like that. Well, this biofield exists as essentially your soul. It's constantly recurring. It's constantly oscillating energy. And essentially, when you get to a point where you're going to die, the wise sages used to say that your soul would leave through the pineal gland, because the pineal gland, the brain, this is heaven. Okay, so the reason that this was considered heaven for many reasons was, I mean, it's a triplicity of sorts. There's a left brain, a right brain, and a lower brain. It's also a brain of 7, because there's 7 different parts of the brain. But then beyond that, there are 12 cranial nerves of the brain. So we have 7 parts of a brain, which are like the 7 days of the week, or the 7 planets, or the 7 colors, or the 7 chakras. But then we also have 12 cranial nerves, like the 12 zodiacal signs, or the 12 months. So you see, the patterns of all reality actually exist not only externally but within the body. And this is why the Bible says you are made in the image of God. This is why they put the sky into 12 zodiacal signs, and they didn't pick 10 or 7 or 8 or 3 or whatever. They did all of these things specifically after our ancient ancestors, who, no matter where you went, I mean, the one thing that they had in common was they were dissecting bodies. You had mummies in Egypt. You had the Mesoamericans and the South Americans. They had like temple rituals, and the Asiatic countries were sacrificing people, and the Nordic people were sacrificing people. Everybody was doing it. Everybody's doing it, and we like to make it seem like it was so simple, like as if they were just primitive. Oh, they were just stupid. They didn't know what they were doing. No, actually, it wasn't as gruesome as it's depicted. What they were really doing was they were cutting open cadavers so that they could study the science and the intricacies of the greatest machine that's ever been built, by something that has a set pattern of vibrational frequencies. And so as our collective has evolved over time, however you want to see it, whether some people are creationists, some people are evolutionists, doesn't matter. The body is the way that it is today. So you can argue, however you want about the existence, or however it came to be, but it's irrelevant, because how we are today is more than likely how we'll be in the near future, so long as a lot of these a lot of humanisms are being pushed, where it's like, oh, well, soon we'll have robot eyes, and we'll be able to put chips in our brain and track where, like, nah, dude, don't do any of that stuff. Don't make any unnecessary changes to the human body that you don't need to make. Once you start tampering with the gift that you were given by the universe, that is where you will start to lose the ability to harness energy, and you will fall far from the light. And that is what we are seeing actually in society today. So a lot of what we have today they're inversions, actually, because we live in this material physical world. Everything is inverted. I used to ask myself long ago, when I didn't understand this. I used to ask myself all the time, why is it that we don't have salad restaurants and like fresh water stores? Instead, we got McDonald's and liquor stores on every corner. Like You know what I'm saying? Like that doesn't make any sense. Why if we were really cared about our collective, would we have all this garbage? And the problem is because it's so prominent, people think it's okay because that was the point. It's about quality. It's about quantity over quality. Unfortunately, that's called an inversion. So what we have today is an inversion. In this world, it is an inversion. This is why the rich and the elite, who are, not all of them, but a good bit of them, are corrupt, moralistically and ethically corrupt. And so, because they are ethically corrupt, people ask themselves, how is it that these people are able to stay in power if good always wins? Well, good does always win in the perspective that we as the collective are the good. So even with all these poisons and these murderous intentions that these crazy people have had, we're still thriving, baby. We're still kicking. We're not letting these people take us down, even though it does take down some of us. The unfortunate truth is that they can't defeat us fully. They'd have to kill all of us, and that is just not something that they're willing to do because we're their slaves at the end of the day. They think of us as slaves. So ultimately, what I'm getting at, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, bro. But and I'm gonna pass it back to you in a second. But what I'm getting at is this, man. Love is, and I'm bringing it all back around. I like to go on these little spiels. I started with love. I'm gonna end on love. The love is the ultimate key. Love is the way that we can connect with other people through our hearts, through our minds, and we can actually resonate with other people and teach other people how to ascend alongside of us. And they don't want that. They actually want us to be divided. They want us to hate each other. They want to create all these bullshit fake problems. Sorry, I shouldn't probably say that. BS fake problems. They want to create all these BS problems, and they want to have each of us blaming each other when in reality, they're afraid. They're afraid right now. There's a system that is crumbling on the inside. We have already exposed it over these last decade, these last few years, and it's falling apart. I mean, just the fact that we're having this conversation is proof and evidence of that. So yeah, long tangent there, but love is the answer. Connecting with other people, educating other people, teaching other people, and helping other people grow. It's exactly what you're doing, boss. You got all these wonderful things that you're doing for other people. You're blessing their bodies with your juice. I mean, look, I can personally test. If you haven't had Caesar's juice, you're crazy because it's like the best juice I've ever had in my entire life. If you have not had his juice, you need to go buy 20 million cartons of his juice and make him the king of juice right now because this man knows what he's doing. I every time I see him, I always get one. It's phenomenal, but that's what it is, man. You're healing people. You yourself are a healer, man. You're healing people's bodies, and you're doing it one day at a time. It's the same with us. It's all about healing that collective and bringing all of us up. A lot of people just want to drag you down, but that's not what it is. Apparently, it's a lot easier for people to be selfish rather than it is for them to not be selfish. But unfortunately, they're learning now that people are waking up, and that's not going to be the case much longer. So love is really that key ticket, man. If you have that internal love to be able to go out and conquer the world of the demons out here and the world of the lower energies, the lower vibrations, you're actually able to go out there and meet people and change people, man. I mean, a group of people wrote a whole book about a guy that did that. His name was Jesus. Maybe you've heard of him. He went out there and he went to like the lowest rungs of society and he was making big changes. That's what he did. He wasn't afraid. He was not afraid of what might happen to him or what might conquer him because he was unconquerable. That was the whole point. So he went out there and he saved people, he helped people, and he ascended the collective. And that's why he had his whole Plains of Galilee speech. It's the same that the Buddha had, where he was talking about the cycles. So all these prophets are doing the same thing. They're going out, they're conquering the lower world, and they're elevating other people up, and that makes massive change. And that's where we are right now, boss. That's where we are today.
Question.
Yeah.
We've had numerous amount of prophets, man, who come into this planet, um, let alone the ones that are go there. I was gonna say, let alone the ones that are murdered every day without a chance to come into existence, right? Based off of that system, we won't get into the A word and stuff like that,
Sure,
but
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but with that, do these prophets keep getting the opportunity to come here or reincarnated because we don't get it, or is it based upon the frequency in which the Earth is at that time, where they, in order to planet, you have permission and such, you have to take human form, and wherever needs the most help at that time, you take the form and what that economy or what that community looks like, and then they do their thing. But it seems, so that's the question. um is it the people that are here, we're just not getting it as to why we keep having these things, or is it that the the elite know that this thing never ends, so they make it a conscious decision to, no matter how much, no matter what decade, no matter what century it is, when we have these people who come here, they make sure to nip it in the bud first. There isn't enough, or things like that.
You are getting into some real deep things, my friend. I can tell you got that high level, but you're Aries, so that just makes sense that you got those big questions, man. You've been thinking about it. All right, let me tell you. I'll drop some of my wisdom here. And again, as I always tell people, take what I say with a pound of salt, because just because I have answers about stuff doesn't mean you just accept it at face value, right? Okay, so what you're really getting at is a cycle. It's a
Mhm.
cycle. So all of and this is like coming direct from, like, I don't like to sugarcoat stuff. You got a lot of people who they learn this stuff, and they like to be cryptic about it. I'm not going to be cryptic. I'm just going to tell you direct what it is. Um, okay, does the sun not rise and then eventually set every single day? Do you not wake up and then do you not go to sleep every single day? There is a period of darkness and there's a period of light. And no matter how small or how big you go, those cycles exist because this is a world which is built on dualities. You have left, right, up, down. You have a spectrum, as I was saying before. You have male, female. It's a spectrum of its own right. But when you have an influx of good that is so powerful because it's tapped into the source, subsequently you're going to have an influx of evil, which is going to overtake eventually. But here's the thing: the evil never wins in the end. And this is actually one of I have evidence of this, and I will get into that in a second, because that actually is getting into a really deep topic. But I want to preface it a little bit. When you have these prophets that go throughout their lives, um, they do so much good for the world that essentially the people who are in power do attempt to destroy it. However, it's based on a multitude of cycles, and we're talking over thousands of years. So you have Abraham, you have Moses, you have Buddha, you have Jesus, you have Apollonius of Greece, you have Attis in Egypt, you have Horus, you have Thoth, you have Neja, Krishna. You have like a wide variety of different beings, which are either gods personified, or prophets, or visionaries, or what have you. And the reality is, to answer part of your question, yes, the elite who have been in power understand that they cannot stop this. So they're attempting to kill as many people and just destroy as many people as they possibly can to remove the possibility of this ever occurring. They are terrified. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that the world that we have today believes a very, very dark, they have a very dark understanding of the mysteries. So, to keep it short and simple, as all of these, we have so many different books that were written around the time of Christ. Not just the Bible, but you're talking about like the Torah, which was, and when I mean around, I don't mean like around just that time period. I'm talking about like a couple hundred years. You have like the Tao Te Ching of China. You have the Torah, the Zohar, the Kabbalah. You have the Popolva. You have the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita. You have all these different works that were created like around the time or just shortly after Christ, or way before Christ. And the issue that we've had over this last 2,000 years is trying to interpret and understand what those texts were trying to tell us, right? So unfortunately, we've had a lot of bad faith actors. One that comes to mind specifically is like Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley was a man who, in the early 1900s, thought that he was the greatest magician on earth. He died with like 50 different STDs because he thought getting STDs was getting closer to heaven. Now, that might seem like really crazy, but when you study a lot of this stuff, they have so many different uh, intricacies and complicated topics that essentially, I'm going to give it to you very straight. Essentially, this is where the disconnect is, okay? The disconnect is simple. All of the ancient texts, when you get into the deepest layers, tell you that the way to ascend is to descend, because this is an inverted world. It's an opposite spectrum of sorts. It's a reflection. That's why, like, your right brain controls your left body, your left brain controls your right body. Everything around you is a reflection. Now, the way they got lost is on the topic of dissension, because dissension for some people means hedonism, or it means taking kids or the A word or any of that. To them, to these evil elites, they think dissension is a material thing. They think that eating bad food or having copious amounts of unprotected sex or drinking a whole bunch of alcohol and all that, they think that is the way, because they've been brainwashed. They themselves, these elites, have been programmed by all these people who did not translate these texts properly. The truth is, the way to ascend is to descend within yourself,
Right.
to battle the demons within yourself, to find the light within yourself. That is the true path. But they took it as a literal translation. So what they're doing now is that they're killing innocent people. Yeah, it's the true lost key. They're killing innocent people, not just because of this whole Messiah thing, because they're scared of that, but they're killing people because they genuinely believe in their ideology, and it's actually, the big secret is in our book, and I got it right here. I gotta find whatever chapter it is, but in the last 400, 500 years or so, there was a form of spirituality that popped up, and this is really it's chapter 46 on Sabbatean Frankism. Have you ever heard of Sabbatean Frankism?
No, I've never.
Because nobody has. Because that is the point. So these people, it is in their ideology to lie. They'll tell you they're Jewish, they'll tell you they're Christian, they'll tell you they're Catholic, they'll tell you they're Muslim. Most celebrities are what's called a Sabbatian Frankist. Now, what is that? A Sabbatian Frankist is somebody who genuinely believes, through negative works, that if we destroy this world, if we make this world so bad and screwed up, God will have no other choice but to intervene, and he will send his only son, and we will kill him, and we will institute our Messiah, which is like the Antichrist kind of figure, right? Because that's what the Bible talks about. But these are all cycles, and they cannot defeat the prophecy that has already been unfolded. It is impossible for them to do so, because all of these works, it's not just the Bible, dude. It's like every other major spiritual work talks about this. The Mahabharata in India, for example, talks about the story of Ram and Ravana, and Ram he's associated with the sun, because like Jesus, he is the sun, or like not just the sky, the sun in the sky, S-U-N, but the sun, S-O-N. He's a reincarnation of Vishnu. Vishnu is the sun figure of the Trinity of India: Brahman, Vishnu, and Shiva. Brahman is the Father, Vishnu is the Son, and Shiva is the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit, when you study Catholicism or Christianity, the Holy Spirit is feminine. It's the Holy Mother. And this is why the Catholic Church worships Mother Mary. They actually do it more than they worship Jesus. And the reason for that is quite complex. But Vishnu, which is the sun figure, just like Jesus, he is like a prophet, right? He's like a spirit that is like a messianic figure that continuously comes back to save the world, just like we have all these prophets from all these different places all around the world. Well, Vishnu specifically, he goes into this guy named Ram, and Ram is an archer because he is firing his arrows of truth. Just like in the zodiac, you have the sign Sagittarius. They're known for either being very, very dishonest, or they're known for being very, very honest. And the ones that are known for being honest are the ones who are shooting their little arrows of truth. So Ram has to fight Ravana. Ravana is essentially an antichrist figure. He comes up. He takes Ram's girlfriend, basically, which is representative of the Holy Mother, and then he whisks her away. And Ravana is very powerful. He's got a kingdom. He's got elephants. He's got wealth beyond all imagination. And Ram has a bow, and Ram wins. Ram wins because he has the side of good, like, within him. He is like the epitome of this guy. So when you have the Bible and all these other things talking about an antichrist figure which will prop up, they'll be extremely charismatic and et cetera, et cetera. I'm less focused on the details. What it is for me is it's more of a cycle, because there will always be a negative to counteract the positive. There will always be something that will come to be conquered, and then the good of the source will come and conquer that thing to prove that not only does it exist, but prove that we need to, as a collective, wake up and ascend towards that source. And that is actually an extremely complex question. Let me finish answering your question by talking about the greatest uncovering that we have in our book, because now we're getting into some really, really deep things. So the thing that we have uncovered over the many, many years that we have done this research, the thing that is our bread and butter, and the thing that we preach more than anything, is it has many, many different names. It goes by the name the Chrism, the Christos, the Sacred Secretion, the Land of Milk and Honey, the Green Lion, the Wedding of the Red King and the White Queen. There's a whole slew of names. The Manna from Heaven, Amrita, Ambrosia. All of these different names are talking about one specific thing. Even the name of Jesus Christ, which was not his name was Yeshua. And Christos, Christ, comes from a Latin term which means anointed. And Krishna of Indian mythology actually gets his name from Christos. Everyone has to go back within. Ain't no way around it. Christos. There you go. Christos is, it was, to the wise sages, it was the epitome of internal alchemy. It was the end goal, the end road, the end result of awakening the divine alchemy within. So what we're talking about here is some of the greatest secrets of mankind. This one particular topic is why I get banned on social media all the time, because they do not let me talk about this. Okay? What we're really getting at here is what is known as an oil. So even if you study Judaism, in Judaism they have something called the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah is what they call the pathway to heaven. This is you've probably seen this before. It's a very complicated graph. It's made of 10 little circles and a whole bunch of paths. Blah blah blah. I'm not going to overcomplicate this. I'm not going to make this all cryptic for you. I'm going to tell you exactly what this is. What this is right here is the pathway to God to the Jewish people. Okay, and they've spent, dude, thousands of years, hundreds of years, centuries. They fought so many wars, and the Crusades. This is what the Crusades was about: was finding the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant, that is the Christos. Now, what am I actually talking about? In India, like I said, it's Krishna, which is their messianic figure, who's also Vishnu. To the Chinese, later on, the Chinese adapted a story of Neja, and Neja is Krishna, and all of these stories epitomize the same being. Okay, it's a prophetic being. However, it's not just that their stories are similar. Okay, Neja is like he's the third lotus prince. So think solar plexus. Okay, third chakra from the base. He has to descend down into the waters, and he has to fight a serpent named Ao Kuang. And then after he defeats the serpent, he gains a staff, and he gains wind fire wheels and a red sash. All of these mystical powers and trinkets. He dies fighting Ao Kuang in the deep depths of the ocean, and then he is reborn, and he comes back to life, and he is a master of the physical world. Okay, we're talking about very similar stuff with Jesus Christ. All right, and a lot of these prophetic figures follow these same types of stories. They have an awakening, they teach people, they make the ultimate sacrifice, and then they ascend. They come back to life and they ascend. What the real secret behind all of these stories is this: that this is actually something that your body does. Okay, so when you go and you look at the Catholic Church, you've probably seen in the Catholic Church they'll give you the little cracker and they'll make you drink your juice, and that's called transubstantiation. So you eat the body of Christ, you drink the blood of Christ, right? Body and blood, one is white, one is red. Okay, these two identities of the red and the white correspond to a whole plethora of other religions. But transubstantiation, which is the word that the Catholics use, is actually a word that means mitosis,
Mm.
derived from the Greek word mitosis. Now, what is mitosis? Mitosis is the splitting of cells. It is the first process that you make when the sperm hits the egg. You split, and then you split, and then you split. The very first thing that defines you as a human is called mitosis. Okay? Mitosis, again, is healing the body. Okay, so you're talking about the real Holy Grail, the alchemical fire, how to understand the inner workings of the body and manipulate that in order to not only heal your body, but ascend your soul. And every single culture on the face of the planet, no matter where you go, they have a story about this. They have a story about this process. Now, if you've heard of Kundalini in the Hindus, Kundalini to the Vedas is part and parcel to this process. Kundalini is the twin serpents. Well, if you go over to Mesoamerica, you have Quetzalcoatl, who was a winged serpent that he taught the people how to ascend and how to do all these things. What they're really talking about is mastery of internal energy. And if you can understand what that really means, mastering internal energy is again, it's conquering the lower vibrations and aligning with the higher vibrations, elevating yourself. Why is this important? Because your body creates a substance. It is that like an oil. Again, we're coming to this anointment process. That Kabbalah that I showed you from the Jews, that big graph, the whole purpose of ascending that to get to God, it's called to fulfill the Mashach. The Mashach in Hebrew means the anointment. Okay, so what you're doing with this to the Jews is you're fulfilling the anointment. This is where they get the word Meshiach, Messiah, because Meshiach means the anointed one. So Jesus Christ is literally Yeshua the Christ, the Christos, Yeshua the anointed one. And even to the Jewish faith, it is actually the anointment. Even to the Indians, they have Kundalini, it is an anointment. And what we're really talking about here is every so often your body, when it aligns spiritually, specifically to the zodiac, which is actually where a lot of confusion comes into play, but it's really based on the moon more than anything. But long story short, there are times of every month where each individual, male or female, is going through a healing process. Now, for women who oftentimes, as you know, Caesar, women show up to these expos and events far more than men do. And the reason behind that is because they inherently and innately know something's going on with their body. Because once a month, they go through menstruation and they also go through ovulation. So these two counteract each other because they're roughly about 2 weeks apart. But what a lot of women don't know is that there was a scientist named Eugene Jonasz in Czechoslovakia who proved that 80% of a woman's cycle is determined based on the moon. And it's dependent for each individual woman, but that 20% is where women sync up with other people. But 80% of the time, If you don't have a regulated cycle, you can actually track these phases through the moon. This is
Right.
why it's called a month.
Yeah.
A month, like 28 to 31 days. Before they changed the calendar roughly 2,000 years ago, we used to have each month be roughly about 28 days because it was in perfect tandem with the moon. And so women knew on the 7th of every month they were going to menstruate, or on the 21st they were going to ovulate, what have you. Well, we had to change that, Caesar. We had to change that, of course, because we can't have the women telling their husbands that it's the same day every single month. That doesn't make any sense. So
Yeah.
they changed the calendar system and they made it all screwy. Like, why do we have to have 28 days and 31 days? And like, that doesn't make any sense. That's so silly. The reason is because, and you're talking about like shit that happened like 30, like 2,000 years ago. Stuff that happened 2,000 years ago. That's how long this has been going on. Even further beyond that, they've been changing things. They've been manipulating the structures of our existence. So a month is called a month because it's really a cycle of the moon. And so the moon controls the cycle even for men. See, there's something I actually we met a nice woman who ended up teaching at the festival that we both attended, and she bought our book because she was like, I was convinced that there's something called menopause, and I told her, yeah, there is. There is. Every month, a guy is gonna get like exceedingly horny and angry at certain points in time. They don't realize what it is because we're not physically bleeding. It's more hidden for us. But still, women are the evidence that every month there is a process that the body undergoes. It happens for men too, and this is why the mystic sages, like the Freemasons or any of these secret societies, that's why they're all male. Because they were trying to elevate themselves by learning from each other because they already had their way of understanding these things. But the unfortunate reality was that all of these wisdoms were lost. Male and female, all of these wisdoms were lost. The cool thing, though, is that women know about these internal cycles. They know about all this stuff inherently, innately. So this is not something that they argue with because they get it. They really really get it. They know that there's some, that's why you have those silly guys and they're like, oh, women are just emotional creatures. It's like, well, emotion's kind of half of living,
Right.
so you can say that they're emotional creatures, but really they're just tapped in because women, and actually, a big reason for that is because a woman's neurological system is mostly below the breast to assist with childbirth and such, whereas a man's neurological system is mostly in the arms. So, because women are more tapped into lower vibrational frequencies better than men are like oblivious and they'll just brush it off, right? They'll just, oh, well, whatever, oh, I had a bad day at work, whatever. But women, they really cling to these things because it's harder for them to actually get rid of those negative vibrations because it's just the way that their neurological system works. That's why you have to be more patient with a woman. That's why you have to be more understanding with a woman, rather than a man, because men are just oblivious sometimes. But that's why we balance each other very well, because women help men awaken their a lot of the time their heart chakras, and a lot of the time the men help the women ascend out of those lower vibrations and kind of get over things a little bit quicker after a while, especially after a woman has a child, because now she's realizing that she has to make those emotional sacrifices for their children. And that's something that just comes out of like the biology of having a kid. After a woman has a child, her entire brain chemistry just changes. And that's just the way that the bodies are built. I'm just saying how it is. However, what we've discovered is, especially within this group, once every month, depending, and it's on an individual basis. This is not like I can just give random advice to a whole collective, and it's not by anything. It's not by age. It's not by a background or ethnicity or anything. It's just based solely on the individual, and a lot of it has to do with the day you were born. Truth be told, but that's of course where we get into the complications in the book. But long story short, every month you go through this process. And what happens in this process? Well, the Christos, the oil that we're really on topic about, this oil, what am I talking about? What am I getting at with this oil? I build a lot of suspense, Caesar, so I apologize. I have a tendency to go off and build a lot of suspense.
Yep.
Your body creates a whole slew of chemicals. They come from the brain, specifically the pineal and pituitary glands. Pineal is because it's shaped like a pine cone, and pituitary is because the pituitary is on the lower part of the brain, and it sends all the endocrine. It rules the endocrine system, but it sends all the endocrine secretions down into the pits of the body. A lot of the time, the genitals and the lower chakras were associated with demons, or they were associated with lower entities, and the brain and the throat and the higher chakras were associated with angels or ascended vibrational frequencies. So pineal is over pituitary, which is why pineal is the one that a lot of people give responsibility for awakening and ascension. That's why the pineal is the third eye, is because it's on a higher wavelength. Anyway, every month your brain has what's called a claustrum, like Santa Claus. Okay, it gets a signal from the space radiation that exists all throughout our universe, which is what creates the zodiacal information that we get. Which, of course, I always preach: the zodiac is not a set structure. It's not something that's set in stone. The zodiac is a science that has to be understood, because people who don't understand it are not conscious. They're not as conscious of themselves. They're not tapped into those energies. So, and that doesn't mean you have to have an extensive understanding of the zodiac. It really just means for you, right? Because you have to understand the ways in which your life has occurred and the ways that you have reacted unconsciously, maybe even reflecting on mistakes or positives that you've had in your life. But those things help you. It's not like, oh, well, you're an Aries, so you're just going to be this way. That's not what it is at all. It's actually the complete opposite. It's saying you're an Aries. You have a proficiency for these positive things, and these are some of the things that you may have had to overcome in your life. But by the time most of us are in our 30s, we overcome most of those things, and that is why babies, when they come out, they all look the same. But after you take that first breath and you have all that ionized space radiation go into your lungs, it stamps and imprints on you. And because of just pregnancy, which is another whole thing in and of itself, being in the womb for 9 months, it creates all these chemicals. Now you go through life from a baby growing up, and you're bombarded with this space radiation from all the different angles and planetary objects of the sky, and it molds you like chiseling marble. All babies relatively look the same. I mean, we even have a system to ensure that nobody mixes up their babies, because they all look like flesh bags. They're all just like little things. As you get older, this space radiation, this energy, it chisels you, especially as you're a child and you're growing up. It chisels you into becoming somebody else, somebody that is more unconscious. And children are not conscious of the zodiac. It's very difficult to teach them that kind of stuff. So they're just existing. They're just being a child. But with that being said, when you understand the zodiac of you, then you can start to piece together when these processes occur. You can start tracking the phases of the moon, the timings of the moon, what sign the moon is in. And if you align it correctly, as we describe in our book, because our book actually details all the information that you're going to need to know about this process, this is what happens. Now I'm going to get into the real secrets. So everybody who's been sticking around, sorry for going off on a tangent, but I needed to preface all that stuff. Okay, this is the real secret. When it is your time of the month, every month, the moon is going to send an energetic signal to the part of your brain called the claustrum. Now, why is it called the claustrum? Because it's Santa Claus. It sends a pathway that goes down, delivers gifts, and then comes back up. This cycle is a cycle of repetition within the body that your body needs to heal. So this is where Santa Claus actually comes from, is this claustrum part. So just a frequency, a vibrational frequency of light hits the brain and then tells the body, specifically in the solar plexus area, it gets all of the lower organs and the higher organs, being the brain, specifically the pineal and the pituitary, to secrete a whole slew of chemicals. And what happens is all these chemicals from the liver, the kidneys, the adrenal glands, specifically the spleen, the placenta, or not the placenta, the pancreas, sorry. All of these chemicals essentially converge in the solar plexus, right in the mid-center of the body. And then what they do is they travel down. Now, the pineal gland specifically secretes one that is like honey, and the pituitary secretes that which is like milk. Okay, so this is the land of milk and honey. All right, and these secretions travel down all of the vagus nerves and all of these different mesenteric artery systems down to the body, and they collect all right here in the mid-center point of the solar plexus. And from there, after they start combining, it's almost like this plasma-based germ. Now keep in mind, plasma, not like blood plasma, but like lymphocytes and B lymphocytes, things that your body creates part of your immune system. These are like white, semi-liquid, semi-physical secretions. And to the wise sages, these plasma-based secretions were more in line with this element of ether than they were the other four elements. So ether is at the top. This is the source. So the light literally creates a plasma-based body right at the solar plexus. This solar plexus they called the Christ seed. Now, why did they call it the Christos or the Christ seed? Because it sacrifices itself for you every single month. And it travels down to the base of the spine where it fights the demons, it fights the urges. This is actually where a lot of people get really horny during the month. And the reason it's important to deter those urges is because if you ejaculate or if you orgasm as a female, what you're doing is creating unnecessary convulsions which harm the body in assisting with this process. And additionally, it is pertinent to attain the level of semen retention, and it's also important for the woman to be very, very healthy during her menstruation cycle. Why? Because the menstruation cycle, they as they tell you, it just like sends an egg out of the body. That's not what it does. It actually recycles the egg, and the egg is then actually broken apart within the uterus. And the uterus, or I'm sorry, within the fallopian tube ovaries. And the ovaries and the testicles are both linked and synced up to the very base of the spine. And the base of the spine is called the coccygeal sacrum, the coccyx bone or the sacrum. And it's called the sacrum because it's sacred, and it houses what's called the sacral pump. Anybody in the comments, you can fact check me on this. You can go Google it on Wikipedia. The sacral pump is a pump because it's like that of a heart. It's like a heart at the base of your spine. And if you collect all of these fluids from the testicular and ovarian arteries, and you bring that energy from the sacral chakras, that sacral area, up into the base of the spine, and then you elevate this mixed concoction, this concoction becomes like that of an oil. And this oily substance travels from the root of the spine, ascends upwards into the brain if you do things like Kundalini, if you practice things like meditation, gratitude, yoga specifically, physical activity with eating properly, and avoiding the more luxuries of life. This is why they have this whole psychological operation to tell women, oh, when you're menstruating, have copious amounts of sex and eat your chocolate and drink alcohol and get screwed up, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to get women to destroy themselves. If a woman's going to do that, if anything, ovulation makes the most sense to do that. But in reality, the menstruation cycle needs to be respected, because this is what each of us have. It's just that women have to suffer more from it because they get the cramps and everything, right? Well, why do women get all these cramps right here? Why do they get cramps and everything? It's all down here in the stomach, because the body's healing. The body is secreting, it's shaking things up, and it's trying to collect all of these juices. And no matter if you're a guy or a girl, and guys, they'll say they get blue balls or like whatever. It's the same. It's in and of itself, it's the same. But if you can deter those urges and you can do the right things and you can make the sacrifice for yourself, you can elevate this substance. And what happens is it is a concoction of like a wine-like substance, and it's like a water that kind of turns into like this fermented thing. It goes up into the brain. There's a big nerve here, and it's called the vagus nerve naturally, right? But it makes a cross, and I think it's connected to I'd have to look back into the book, but it's connected to, I think, the optic thalamus nerve, which actually has like a little opening that deposits into the inner thalamus of the brain. So you're talking this substance travels all the way from the midsection down the spine, comes back up into the brain. And once it gets into the thalamus of the brain, it causes a reaction that is that like yeast rising. it goes from a watery substance to a wine alcoholic like not actually alcohol, but you need that fermentation to begin. And what happens is it pushes on the inside of the brain, and it activates this little latch called the fulcrum within the brain. And essentially the brain flexes, it squeezes, and then it releases, and it stimulates the pineal gland. The pineal gland is actually, it illuminates from the chemicals of this substance, which causes the illumination of this substance to then like basically bake almost this liquid in the brain, which then pushes from the inside out into the out into the brain, which causes the brain to squeeze and then release all of these secreted hormones and all of these cerebrospinal fluids. And
Mm-hmm.
the cerebrospinal fluids are very, very important for the body. And when the brain does this, your cup runneth over. This is the holy grail. So the cup runneth over, and the brain becomes emulsified in these juices that heal the brain. Then they travel down the tracks of the body, and they replenish the body so that the solar plexus can recreate that again. Now everybody does this every single month, but depending on your capacity to do it, you can actually attain enlightenment so much faster, and you can elevate yourself to a point where you are like that of you're basically bliss. You're always in bliss. It actually releases dimethyltryptamine, DMT, which is what causes a blissful state in nature. And it's something that our DNA responds to very positively. Of course, that comes with that being said, that of course I don't condone everybody doing psychedelics, at an extreme rate, but you're talking about naturally making DMT within the body. And this is why breath work is so important, because breath work is a pump that is raising all these secretions. Yoga assists with this pump like motion, which raises these secretions. Physical activity, eating correctly, or fasting, deterring yourself from sexual urges, etc. You are harnessing the power of your body. And the reason this is crucial, and it is similar to all of these prophetic stories, is because this Christ seed, which begins the process, ends up dissolving. So the germ itself, the seed itself, it dissolves as it battles in the lower spheres of the sacrum, and it has to dissolve in order for the chemical concoction to occur. So it seems as though the negative being defeats the positive being. But in reality, after this concoction comes up and blesses the body and travels back down, the seed is born again. It's born again the next month. And after you get this concoction in your brain, it sits there for 3 days. Just like how Christ was crucified, died for 3 days, right? So in reality, the true wisdom that I'm sharing with you and all of our wonderful viewers here is that not only was the story of Christ about Christ, but it was, the reason he was so important was because his life mimicked an internal biological process that you use to heal yourself. So bringing it all back around to answer your question, the reason that we have these messianic figures that come through life and they seem to always be dogged down upon, it's irrelevant, because at the end of the day, we will always win, because each one of us is an anointed one. Each one of us is our own messianic figure in our own right. Each one of us has the Christ within, and we can epitomize that, and this is what is known as Christ consciousness. And thus, we have come to the end of my little spiel and my explanation.
No, bro. Listen, you're dropping super gems right now, man. Yeah, people in the comments loving it, bro. I love it, man, and it's amazing. Like one of the things that you were saying when we were talking about secretion, I've kind of said this in the past, is that all superheroes kind of have that battle within themselves, right? You
Mhm.
know, you have who's battling if he wants to stay Clark Kent or if he wants to be Superman. You have Batman who's like tripping out because he's like, I don't know if I'm worthy of being a vigilante, or should I just be Bruce Wayne and sell out. Wonder Woman, so many different things, right? And we're talking about you. You said earlier, it's all battling yourself. You're distracting yourself with a lot of these things, right?
Mm.
And it's just very interesting to hear you talk about like the sacred secretions, man, and the cycles that we go through on this plane, because it really is, man. It's never ending, you
Mhm.
know, and you really hard to warn yourself a lot of times in this time that we're in, because there's so many things that are pushing and pulling on you. You know what I mean? But you have to have a sense knowledge of self to be able to go through this life, and have purpose, because it can weigh you down, man. So it's still, bro. It's still, man. How
Thank
did you?
you.
What was one of the main things that kind of spearheaded you into to finding out some of this information, man? Like when you first started your journey into writing the book or formulating it, what kind of like spearheaded that?
Yeah, great question. And I actually, I feel like I don't get that question asked enough. And so I could say a whole bunch of things. I mean, when I like 8 years ago, I did DMT for the first time, and it's the only time I've ever done it. And I didn't even know what it really was. And I had this extremely powerful transcendental experience. I wasn't even necessarily religious or anything. I was like a 20-year-old kid. That I won't go into the complexities of it because it was very deep and detailed, but that made me realize how different I saw life afterwards and how I always had this inclination to see life, but at the time I kind of lost my way a little bit because my parents were like they went through a brutal divorce and they were like just miserable. They were substance abusers and everything, and it led them down on a bad path that started abusing me, and I started to lose a little bit of that faith. But then after I did that DMT, it set me on this path where I realized like none of the external stuff matters, because at the end of the day I know I have a soul. I know there's something deep within me, and I know that I can ascend, and I want to be a good person. That was really what it was. Fast forward, I mean, I read a lot. So while other people were, doing whatever from watching football or playing video games, I was reading, I was studying, I was learning, I was reading the Bible, I was reading all of the ancient wise texts. And then I would say, like, it was honestly, I could not have done it without the guys, man, because we all had our own interests and we all used that same characteristic of love. We all came together and we pooled all of our information together and we started asking questions. This doesn't seem right. Why is the world this way, and what can we do to fix it? And from there, after we started delving into the bigger secrets, I would say one of the bigger things that happened, and I think I showed this to you and your cousin, I think, but this book is The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall, and this book is like extremely complicated to understand. But once we got this book, which was passed down to my friend Richard, um, from a family heirloom, because his family was like they were Freemasons.
Right.
We said to ourselves, okay, well, we're gonna crack these codes and we're gonna try to see, I mean, like you're talking like very intense, extensive artworks and detailed graphs and stuff. I mean, like this book gets like really crazy. And as I said before, this book is probably right now in this condition is probably worth somewhere between like 4 and 5 grand, I would say. Like you're talking very intriguing and very deep, intense things. No, like nobody's looking at this kind of stuff, man. This is really intense stuff. So what we did was we started reading this, and we said to ourselves, man, this book doesn't make any sense. It's basically, we said this book makes no sense. It's got a lot of really great wisdom in it, but like we can't figure it out. That is where our journey began, where we started kind of like, for the lack of a better word or phrase, we started rejecting the modern world. We started doing the exact opposite of what they started telling us to do. And that is why, like, if you go in the back of our book here, there are 280 books and 93 websites. And that was like the abridged version of our bibliography. Like that's like the small version, because I actually originally wrote the book to have over 1,000 pages, and I had to delete a whole bunch of stuff. So I ended up deleting a lot of the some of the deeper things just because it was going to get lost on some people. But um, I wanted to make a book where people could understand the things that I was teaching from any perspective, any culture, any background, any age. So I wrote it so that it was simple to understand. But when we collectively did this, I mean, you're talking like this took like 10 years, and it took a lot of guidance from Honestly, from God. I mean, it was a lot of synchronicities, a lot of things that people would just normally pass off as coincidences, but they weren't coincidences, and we just kind of continued on that path. Um, and we uncovered amazing things as we did. It was very difficult to do because we lost a lot of friends along the way,
Yeah.
a lot of family members, people who just don't get it, man. They don't see it, they don't understand it. Um, and that's okay. That's okay. That's what we're here for. We're here to teach, and we're here to help others. But there's really not one thing that really happened. I would say after realizing, I mean, we were never really big into drugs or anything like that, so it wasn't like from psychedelics specifically, but I knew from working in the real world, like the corporate world, because I used to work on Wall Street for a little while. Um, I knew something was wrong with the world. It just didn't make any sense. Why was it this way? It shouldn't be this way. And so really it was just us, like this group of guys, being true to ourselves and connecting with that source, whether we knew what we were doing or not. Now fast forward, we've uncovered so many secrets because we know what to look for now, and we know exactly what kind of teachings. I mean, what I just taught you about this sacred secretion process, this Christos, I just got off the phone like a couple days ago with a guy who's a 32nd degree Freemason, very good friend of mine, and he basically said, "Yeah, dude, you found the epitome of all of the things that they teach all the way in the upper echelons of Freemasonry, and they don't even have that information. And honestly, you need to come and you need to teach these things to them because this is lost to them." And even in that book I showed you just now, that big expensive one, it says there's a quote in there that talks about this process. It talks about the Kundalini. It talks about the ascension of the seven churches of Asia, which are the chakras. It talks about the brain and the Holy Grail. And he specifically says this is the lost key of Freemasonry. This is what, honestly, if you really want me to blow your mind a little bit, this is what the world wars, or one of the things that the world wars were fought over, bro, is they didn't have this stuff anymore. They lost all this wisdom, and a lot of that is because of, like I said before, Sabbatean Frankism. This extremist ideology popped up where they basically thought that this guy was the Messiah in the 1600s in Europe. It's more like Europe and Middle East, and this guy ruined everything. Everything that you see today that you can blame stemmed from this dark occult ideology that nobody knows about. Nobody knows about it, but it was very dark, and more importantly, it was like brainwashing. Basically, they brainwash people. Now, it doesn't mean that they didn't have things that were right, because there were some things that were right. They taught that this world was an inversion. They taught that descension is the way to ascent. But it's the lens and it's the explanation, the detail behind it, this dissension ascension dichotomy. The dissension is within, man. It's not descent. This is why the signal descends and then it ascends. So it starts from the top, goes down, and then goes right back up the body. In a similar way, if you want to think about it this way, in a similar way, if you imagine that the head is like a ball of light, or it's like the source, it shines down into the body, which is like the material world. So it starts from source, goes down, and then comes back up to source. And that's what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to ascend. But the hard part is, every single month, everybody has these stages where they lose control. They allow themselves to be taken over by those negative frequencies and vibrations. And they have, I mean, it's not even almost like I can blame people, because that's where the focal point of all this energy and these secretions are going to be. It's going to be at the base of the spine. People want to get it out of them. This is where that horny dynamic comes in. People want to get it out of them. But the society around us has played into this. They know these secrets. They don't want people to awaken to these things, so they have purposely made it so that you can't. And it's not that you can't, it's just that they don't want you to. So the best way to fight them is actually to have self-control and self-mastery of yourself, because really that's what we teach. We forget all the things I said about the body, forget all the things I said about that. What I'm really getting at is this: take care of yourself, take care of you, love you, battle those inner demons in you, and get over those things so that you can move on to a brighter and better future for you, for your family, for your friends, for everybody around you. That's really what it comes down into. That's really what I'm getting at, is take care of you, take care of yourself, love yourself, self-responsibility, self-mastery, self-sacrifice. That facts, that's a good word for it, because that's what the Messiah does. He sacrificed himself. We are all anointed ones. We are all capable of Christ consciousness. Jesus didn't go around saying, I'm Mr. Big Special. Like, look at me. I'm the only one that can do this. He never said that. He said
Mm.
anybody could be like me, because we can. Because not only is it a mental thing, it's even physically built in us. That's why our body is a cycle. That's why all of these nerves and all these things, they connect in a circle, because your body needs this cycle to continue. Just as the sun rises every day and grants you a good morning, and just as it sets every night and it dies or it goes to sleep, it will rise again the next day, and you will continue to rise, and you will just continue to grow. And that is how our collective evolves, bro. That is the real true secrets of the messianic process and all that. It's love for yourself, love for others, love for the Most High, love for even the lowest lows, love thy enemy kind of stuff. That's what I'm getting at. So with that, yeah, I'm putting a wrap on that, because that was a really good little lecture I had, and my phone says it's gonna die soon. So
Words.
yeah.
Wrap it up, man. I think some of the takeaways I wrote from that, man, is kind of just like, you know, self mastery, of course, but also, transforming your mind. Be
Yep.
transformed, because this world is ruthless, brother. It's so ruthless, man. And the more you start to come into the knowledge of certain things, the more you see that it is an actual matrix program that's actually that we're living in somehow, and it's like when we were talking about the kids earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting to
Dan, can you bring
realize
me?
that
Can you bring me a
the
charger?
kids that are brought into this plane, man, are actually older than their parents.
Oh yeah. They're more tapped into source than anything. They're tapped into God. They're tapped right in, because that's where they just came from. Whereas, like, you get people who are elderly, they get all curmudgeony and they're angry and they're bitter. That's because they've had a vessel that's like 80 years old, and they haven't not been doing the right thing. They don't know what they're doing with their body.
Yeah, and it's an amazing, but like self mastery is very key.
Mhm.
Love frequency is very key. I think those are some of the major takeaway points from this live, bro.
Hell yeah.
Like exuding that. There's so many people I've talked to, like, within the last few months, bro, who are, I think they're amazing people, like, from what they're doing business wise, what I can see their light and their purpose is. But they're just like humanity. We always have that duality, bro. We
Right.
have that a lot of times we'll fight against ourselves, or we don't think that we're actually meeting our highest self.
Yeah,
We don't confidence in that. And I think once we learn how to embrace the demons and the thoughts and the things that we have within ourselves, and actually transform that
that's right.
into into our higher selves and into our light that we're supposed to be, um, we'll have that self mastery. But it's a process, bro. It's a
Absolutely.
process.
And I like what you said, because it's about the center path. It's not about the left or the right. And if you study a lot of this stuff, you have people who want to just, they want to bring in their angels, and you have other people who go real demonic. And obviously everybody knows you go the negative route, it's not good. But the
Yes.
problem the problem with going too much to the positive route without understanding the negative is that is how you get tricked by the devil. Because the devil, if you don't get it, if you don't understand it, if you don't see it, and you aren't able to conquer your own demons to transform it, then, and it's not about like opening up to it. It's about recognizing it. It's about consciousness and transforming it, like you said, and just understanding it's a part of you, but being able to choose the better thing. You don't need an angel or a demon or anything to tell you how to live your life, if you know inherently, not that you're thinking about it, but you know it inherently, because of all the work and the good deeds and whatnot that you've done. That's really what it comes down to. because everybody's got demons, everybody's got angels, everybody has both, no matter what. But it's about understanding how to combat the lower and attain the higher, and that's really what it is. So like, love what you said there, man. Love what you said there.
Amazing, bro. Amazing.
Mm.
Yeah, man. We gotta we gotta let the people see the next time on your podcast, man,
Yo,
because
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah, yeah. We gotta do part three. Part three. I'm about it. I'm about it.
so many gems, man. And I'm so grateful that you're able to come on, bro. And I love you and the guys, man. Every time we link up, and it'll be like, it's always random, bro. It's always random in which we, whether it's events or something. I'm like, bro, I did not know y'all
I
were here
know,
today.
I know. It's great. It's great. It's
Great.
it's it's wonderful, man. It's wonderful, and it's all love, bro. We love what you're doing. You're healing people, dude, and that's what we're trying to do too. We're healing people as well. It's really what it comes down to, man. We gotta raise everybody up. It's a brother and sisterhood, and what we're doing reflects outward. So if we're being good to ourselves, we're being good to the people around us. It's gonna reflect outward like a ripple effect. It's gonna be like you throw that little pebble, that's you, man. You throw that in a pond, you just spread across the whole pond, and you're just a little pebble. And everybody thinks that they might be insignificant. Absolutely not. One person can make the world of difference. That's what the Messiah was all about, because he was the anointed one, and that's what each one of us has the responsibility of becoming, is an anointed one, just like him, because we all have the capability to do it, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and soulfully. That's the real facts right there. So lots of love to you, my friend. Lots of love, because I love coming on here. I love chatting with you, dude. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You definitely are on the right path, man. I can tell you that much for sure. We are gonna be doing so much change in this world as a community, man, and that's really what it comes down to. So thank you so much for giving me time on this podcast. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, brother, man. I appreciate you all, man. And plug something, man.
Yeah.
Plug.
All right. Please go check us out. Well, first of all, go follow Caesar if you're not following Caesar, because he's got the juice. Okay. And if you want some more juice, you can go pick up a copy of this book, Psycosmos, a synthesis on human history and spirituality. Everything that I was detailing in this podcast is in this book, and it gives a lot more practical wisdom on step-by-step processes and basics. It is quite expensive. It's about $100. I'm not gonna lie to you, but the only reason that it's that expensive is just because we could not get away with the publishing cost. This thing is a monster. It's about 5 pounds. You can bring it on a plane. You can beat people up with it if you want to. It's a legal weapon on a plane. So that's what I tell people. So yeah, it is hefty, but I'm telling you, it comes from tens of thousands of dollars and a lifetime of experiences and understandings. Yes, it is on Amazon. The link is in our bio. You can go check it out. If you do like it, please feel free to give us 5 stars. And yeah, once again, this book, it basically is just a collection of information. If it doesn't change your life, it's going to point you in the right direction to find another book or another source that will change your life. So definitely recommend it. Definitely recommend getting it.
Yeah, you definitely gonna find something in there that resonates, man. And it's kind of hard, man, unless you just, is there an audio version? That's a good
We're
question.
working on the audio book, and we're working on splitting it into 3 volumes as well. Yeah, so there's a lot coming with it, and but it's all good. It's all good, and I'm working on like a pocket version because some people tell me it's too big. I like to read. I don't know. I wrote an 800-page book. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Now I'm starting to realize that people just don't read. So okay, whatever. That's fine. That's fine. But yeah. We're working on the audio version, but yeah, still many, many, many blessings to each and every one of you.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But and I'm gonna go back and say that's the price that you set for the book is not expensive.
Yeah. Thank you.
Not expensive because it's your value, and you have to state in this world because your information, your time, your resource, the messages that you receive from source to be able to go into this route is very much so worthy of way more than $100.
Yeah.
It's life changing, you know what I'm saying? So really a discount, you know what I'm saying?
Thank you. I appreciate it, bro.
It's something that I feel like everybody needs to have, whether it sits in your library. It needs to be in the library. This needs to be a part of everyday curriculum for schools, but we know how that goes.
Yeah, of course, yeah. One day.
One day.
One day.
So yeah, man, we're gonna end it here, guys. We appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. Matt is a dope light being, brother. And yeah, if you guys watch this replay, make sure you say at the beginning and at the end one thing you're grateful for, man. End your day with gratitude, love. Do something tonight, man, that's going to serve you in a better day. In a better way. That's gonna help you for a better day tomorrow.
Right.
Because we're already there. We're already there. So set your intentions. Be grateful for what you've accomplished for this day, and let's get back to it tomorrow, family. And I appreciate y'all. Peace, love, and light. And Matt, relatively soon, bro. We're gonna link up relatively soon, man. And I appreciate Dan and the team for joining in tonight.
Yeah, you got it, brother. You got it. And I'm grateful for you. Love you too, man. I'm grateful for you, brother. So yeah, many blessings to you and all of those watching. Thank you so much again for having me today. We'll get up soon.
No worries. Peace, man. Y'all have a good one. We appreciate y'all.
Take care.